When we think of faith, we don't want to think of our ability to believe. We want to think of getting to know God. And right away, if your idea of faith is like trying to take a square and shove it in a circle hole, because you're thinking, when I think about faith, I ought to be thinking about getting to know God. What? How does that fit with what I've learned about faith or what I think faith is? So when we think about faith, we don't want to think about our ability to believe or someone else's ability to believe. That's not what we want to think about. We want to think about getting to know God. If you see anything beautiful in a person, it ought not be, look at their great ability, look how great they are. It ought to just be, man, look what God brought forth in them. Right? Because now you're thinking of the God that brought it forth instead of the man that you think brought it forth. Right? And so when you think about faith, try and think about getting to know God. And how is it that you get to know someone? The way you get to know someone is by seeing their heart, right? I mean, I hope you guys love me. I don't want to be presumptuous, but for the sake of this argument, that's what we'll say. Otherwise, the example's no good. A lot of people that aren't in the church or that don't know me, they can hear me preach and see me, and they can be like, what's wrong with that guy? I mean, I even had a guy come on YouTube and make a comment about, why is this guy barking like a dog? Listen, I don't fault the guy for saying that. He hasn't seen into my heart. He doesn't know me. Right? But you guys, you know me because you've seen into my heart. Right? And so the way you get to know someone is by seeing into their heart. The way you get to know God is by seeing into His heart. Well, the deepest part of God's being is faith. And I'll say it a different way so you can try and wrap your head around it. The deepest part of God's being is the faith, or the spirit of faith. Faith is God's heart. Faith is God's heart. He lives and moves and has His being within the spirit of faith. We can even say it this way. Faith is God. Faith is God. Just as the Apostle John would come and say that the Word is God. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word is God. We can even say that faith is God. So when we think of faith, we want to be thinking of God Himself. We want to think of the heart of God in getting to know God by beholding His heart. That's what we want to think about faith. That's what we want to think about our lives in faith. We don't want to be thinking about, we got to use our ability to believe. We don't want to think about how we're going to get life to manifest by our ability to believe. That doesn't mean life won't manifest. But I promise you, whatever life manifests in you, it's going to come from the Father of lights and the Father of all glory. It's not going to come by your ability to believe. And so we want to have our hearts fixated on, man, a life of faith is just a life of walking with God in the cool of the day, where I'm getting to know this guy by beholding His heart. To live by faith is to live by the knowledge of God. That's what it means to live by faith. It's to live by the knowledge of God. And not just any knowledge about God, but the correct and precise knowledge about God that was revealed in the man Christ Jesus. Living by faith isn't to live by your ability to believe to get things to happen. That's not living by faith. I hate to break it to you, that's living by your works. That's living by your own strength. That's where you're trying to take your design and you're trying to bring forth life by working your design. Love me some faith.